Hi, so today I'm having a conversation with Alice, who lives in Barcelona. She'll introduce you to her story and she'll be able to tell us about her realization. So really nice to get to speak with you again, Alice. And yeah, I'll just hand over to you.
Thank you, David. Well, as you might guess, Alice is a fictitious name, or actually I'm Russian. Well, this physical form is Russian. It's really difficult to talk about this physical form now, you know, as someone having a personality, you know, yes. Like human being, because this is what brought me here, really. And so this form, using your language, David, arose in Ukraine, not so effortlessly, according to my mom. And she always tried to remind me about that, which, you know, set in motion the first program I had, which is guilt. And as a little child, I already felt guilty, you know, for she had me when I was born. And I'm Russian. I was born in Ukraine, and then we moved from Ukraine to Russia, and then later I got married to a Spanish guy and we moved to Spain. So this is where I am now. And so shall I speak a little bit about my childhood?
Yes, that would help. Yes, certainly. Just because that gives us an idea of the way things have, you know, formed from the beginning of your life, really.
Yeah, for us to get a better picture. Well, I don't think my story would be really different from the stories that other people shared on your channel and some people I listen to as well on YouTube. Well, my parents, mom, dad, I love you so much, were quite demanding, quite domineering people. And I know that they were doing their best and they tried to create, you know, a good person. But well, they did their best and they used the knowledge they had at that time. And now I fully understand that. And I'm more than thankful and grateful for the things being that way, because at the end of the day, I'm here and I'm absolutely happy and free. This is the word I was looking for.
Yes.
So, but at that time, it didn't seem so great because it has always been like looking for validation from them. We had such ideas as don't sit without doing anything, no pain, no gain, you know, yes. This kind of thing. It was also very important to produce a very good impression on other people, because other people might think that you are not a good girl and your parents are horrible. So, you know, I was really responsible for producing good impression, or like giving a good impression, giving a good image of myself as yes. well as of my parents, you know. Yes. So yes. That was, I think, quite a lot to, you know, to carry for a little child. And also I was constantly compared with other children, you know, someone's son, someone's daughter. Obviously, they were better than myself, which manifested itself as extreme jealousy. It manifested itself in adult life, in my relationships with my significant others and with my friends as well. Sometimes even with my students, you know. I'm a teacher, so this is what happened to me, and I that really was quite difficult.
The way you're just so honest about that, because it gives people a good idea, because the basis of the jealousy, it isn't really your own, but it was installed as a program, and it's strange the way things like inferiority can impact on things, because there's obviously no reason at all for your parents to compare you with anyone. I'm sure that you were as good, if not better, than anyone around you. So it's such a strange thing to have to endure as a child, but it's actually very typical of people I speak with, because most people I have conversations with have had quite a difficult childhood, and that tends to be the basis of the seeking which begins. So sorry to interrupt you there, but I just wanted to say that because I really appreciate you being so honest, but it's, you know, it's nice for it not to be personalized really, because it certainly isn't true.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, like some time ago, not very long ago, it was quite difficult for me because, I mean, to speak about this, you know, it's
Yes.
because it's crazy to recognize that. Because
Yes.
at the same time, I understand that, like, it's a contradiction. It's absolutely crazy. It's
Yes.
like this inner conflict. I know that I'm not that stupid. I know that I'm not that ugly, you know, like.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I did and do receive a lot of attention. We speak about like look-wise and this kind of thing. But it's like, on one hand, I needed this validation from my friends, from my significant others, from my parents, and all my friends, like representing my parents, definitely. And at this, and at the same time, on the other hand, when I received a lot of attention from people I was not interested in, and I know that probably they could be a perfect match, friends-wise, relationships-wise, partnership-wise, just like exactly in terms of what I was looking for. But then when receiving that sort of attention, I was not feeling comfortable either. So it was like absolutely crazy. Where am I? It's like it was impossible for me to feel who I really was. And I think also, like as you said, it comes from the early childhood when you're already told who you are or who you have to be.
Yes.
But I think at the same time, I was aware of something different, but definitely I couldn't trust that, because if they say, and they are big and they know everything and they are like, all, you know, like powerful, they are whole world to me. Definitely they know best. And so this is what happened. So I couldn't trust this inner voice, which I think was pretty strong even back then, because it kept me, you know, moving.
Yes.
And definitely it was perfect.
Yeah.
Now I see that everything was perfect. I wouldn't change absolutely anything. And I'm really thankful to my parents and to my partners and friends who I also brought to my life based on this pattern, this other pattern, which is jealousy, you know, and my inferiority, because I brought them to reconfirm, or well, for my mind to reconfirm its inferiority identity. It couldn't have been in a different way. Now I understand that.
Yes.
And I'm really thankful and grateful to them for giving me that opportunity of experiencing this deep pain of separation. It sounds so crazy now, maybe, but I really had to go deep into it and feel it, like all the, I don't know, all the shades of darkness.
Well, it's such it's a very mature approach to take, because if you look at the human experience, you know, firstly, we're subjected to the sort of separation experience where our parents are convincing us to function as though we're a human being existing in time and space. But then on top of that, there are additional programs to do with expectation and other things, which really make it such a tough experience for the child. But I like the way you've interpreted it. So you just see that it served you to actually move beyond those limitations, and it's been an invitation to wake up to your true nature, really, because that was obviously totally untrue, and it was a fictional version of oneself, and it's great to go beyond that.
Right. Yeah, it's great. I just can't stop enjoying, you know, this new state.
Fantastic.
It's just such freedom, This is what I wanted. So like I was looking for love. Like all my life, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And together with love, it was freedom. Because when I thought I found it, inside, I was fighting for freedom and for them to see who I really am. Well, I had no idea who I really was, but anyways, again, they had an idea of myself and of what I was supposed to be or to seem to them. And somehow I had to fit in, which every time got more and more difficult.
Yes.
And so it was like love and freedom. And now I know that it's me. I'm love, I am freedom. And that's just fantastic. So I had to go through that experience to find the real love and the real freedom. Well, so it seems. I don't know. Let's see what happens next. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. So could you just speak about the sort of process for you, Alice, the way things develop? Because in terms of, say, your teenage years and then going into adulthood, and I know you're a mum, I know you have 2 children, and
yeah.
At what stage did the kind of reviewing of your life experience turn more into a spiritual search as well? If you could just mention that.
Wow, that was really interesting because when we talked with you, I said like it took me like 2 years to get here, mostly. Yeah. But there were certain periods of life, short but intense, of sort of seeking, but I can't say it was seeking. It's like I felt there was something, or probably I wanted to understand me better, and I knew that I should search somewhere in the spiritual world. I don't know really. The thing is that, let's start from the very beginning. My first memory is that I'm standing in the kitchen, looking through the window at a distant mountain, asking myself, how did I begin?
Wow.
And at that point, I think I felt at that moment this spaciousness expanding, and I understood that I couldn't understand it, and it felt uncomfortable.
What age?
That is why probably I remember.
Yes, certainly. What age would you have been then?
I think 4 or 5, maybe.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Less than 6 for sure. Yeah. And then life took its, I don't know, well, it continued, and at the age of 20, I already, 21, I think, I already had my first son. He was like a little baby. I remember that with his father, the things were not going well already. So like I was not, like this need to, now I understand what I was looking for, but at that time, it's like I needed that. I'm a teacher, I'm a philologist, but I wanted to become a painter, by the way. So I used to paint and draw and this kind of thing. So probably this, like this inseparable parts of maybe not in love, let's say being inspired, this kind of thing. And at that point, I felt like empty, because again, I understood, okay, my husband is not someone who understands me. At that time, it was about them. Now I know that it was about me all the time, but at that time, like, oh, he's a bad guy. I'm sorry, I love you so much if you're watching me now, and everyone. And so at that point, I was just walking along the street, and I suddenly heard, sort of internally, someone calling my name. Like it was a thought, but my name.
Yes.
And I just turned my head, and there was a tree. And at that point, I instantly knew that the tree wanted to talk to me. I understand how it sounds, probably. And I remember that my mother told me that when I was a very like little child, I don't remember that, I used to talk to trees. So I thought, oh, probably this is it. So trees are talking to me. And I looked at it as if it told me, like, look at the sky. And I just looked at the sky, and like between the branches, I could see this rosy orange, like this play of different colors, this beautiful combination. And I instantly felt the thing I described to you in our talk, again, this feeling of love just flowing out of my chest. It didn't last long, but it was so intense, and I felt so in love with nobody. This is when I think I understood that love is within,
yes,
not outwards.
Yes.
Somehow I managed to forget about that later. I did remember that experience. I wanted to feel it, but I couldn't get my body, you know, to experience that again. But that was it. And then as I was walking, continued with my walk, I saw someone homeless, really dirty, you know, like searching for food, you know, in those containers, just, you know, like rummaging in trash.
Yes.
And I felt so much love towards them. And it was really difficult for me, you know, to keep myself from running towards them and embracing them, you know. Yes. There was so much love that I could bear it. And I understood that, like, I need love, you know, I don't need it. Like, there's so much love inside that if I don't share it, I will explode or I will die. I don't know. Yes. Like, at that point, it was really interesting to feel that you have so much that you don't really need anyone. And it's just the other way around. You have to share instead of ask. So that's it. It was pretty intense. And then lots of years without anything special. Then I started somehow reading Carlos Castaneda.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly his name. And I found it pretty interesting. Then a little bit of Ouspensky, and then again, different relationships, different distractions. Again, I forgot about everything spiritual. And a bit later, again, at the age of maybe 25, I joined a meditation group. They followed some Indian teaching. They prefer, you know, not to be really like, not to go public. So that's why I'm not going to mention their name.
Sure.
So we meditated. Yeah. And the purpose was to get to the 8th, you know, plane of this structure. And so in order to, you know, to get rid of our karma and be free. And somehow I thought that I needed that. And I was meditating with them, and I met a lot of wonderful people. But at the same time, I understood that, again, this spiritual community thing, you know, again, spiritual ego and stuff. And it became a little bit strange to me. And again, I felt that I didn't fit in. And at that time, well, probably I understood it a little bit later. But prior to that, I moved to Spain because I met my Spanish husband, well, future Spanish husband at that point. And we moved to Spain again, looking for love and looking for liberation. Liberation at that point from my life situation in Russia with my family and possible influences, and myself already having 2 children. I already had got divorced by that time, and I thought that I would never be with anyone. This is how I moved to Spain and got married to another guy. So you see, everything is very logical, but now I understand why. And at that time, I was like in this period that I had to go to a psychotherapist.
Yes.
And now I know he was absolutely right. He told me that you're moving to Spain, but it's not because of your husband, and you will see. Probably he could understand already that, again, speaking about being a vibrational match with my husband, at that point we were, because I think we had like the same level of frequency, but probably my therapist knew that there can be some development, personal development.
Yes.
It was quite challenging moving to another country because he didn't want to come, but well, I understood that, again, there was this hand of destiny that we moved here. And it was really difficult, especially for my children, you know, to get used to the new family, new rules, new culture.
Yes.
the Spanish are very, no,
Yes.
so open-hearted. So, they want to touch you. These 2 kisses given to strangers, it's absolutely normal to them. And we come from different culture, like it takes time for us, to be able to kiss a stranger, well, we actually don't normally.
Sure.
Yeah, so, okay, but I was an adult. Well, I hope I still am. But my children found it pretty challenging, like being kissed by everyone.
Sorry, what age were your children when you moved to Spain?
12 and 7.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so quite a challenge for them, really.
Quite a thing.
Culturally, it's a big shift, and then having to learn the language as well, I guess.
Yeah, but it didn't take them long. And actually, Spanish school, what I liked about it, in a way, that this openness, and maybe they're less formal than Russian schools.
Yes.
And there can be, advantages and disadvantages, but in general, in that situation, it was okay because they were just like accepted as family members, and then they really felt quite okay pretty soon.
That's nice, actually.
With the language.
It would be, it may be more difficult going the other direction if you were going from Spain to Russia, if they'd experienced.
Oh, right.
But,
right.
Yeah, it's amazing flexibility, really, for all of you to experience that.
Yeah, well, it happens, and it's a beautiful place, and I absolutely love it here. But and at that period of time, there was nothing spiritual in my life. Definitely, I tried to create a good relationship with my in-law, because I understand that for her it was also a big shift.
Yes.
Someone coming from another country with 2 children. And her son had no idea about, child raising, the child upbringing, and this kind of thing. And it was a challenging situation for everyone. My children, I had to start working right away.
Yes.
In order, again, to show that I'm not going, to eat your bread, and I'm not going, to be a burden. And definitely I was away all the time. And when I would come home, I could notice there was something wrong, but my children would never tell me, No, my husband. So it was kind of
yes, a bit fragile at times.
And little by little they told me, it was quite difficult. So little by little it got so difficult, and I also did my therapy still like online with my therapist. Also, I did work on my growth or personal growth, and it did help me a lot. But my husband, he didn't want. He had, like an opportunity also, to start going to, start going somewhere to improve, because definitely he also had problems and he recognized it. But so definitely there was no other possibility for us to continue but to get divorced. Now we're best friends, which is really good.
Yes.
It took time, but it's perfect. And then I just entered another, relationship. And again, it was nothing spiritual. What's more, I started feeling something like, again, I need something. And every time I spoke about it, he would laugh at me, oh, poor, this kind of thing. And it was pretty crazy. And I think the more we continued, with this relationship, the more uncomfortable I was feeling within myself, like I'm not living my life. Because he wanted to see me, it's like, oh, come on, do you want to, like he says, symbolically, metaphorically, do you want to be my pet? Come on, come in, here is your, bird cage. And I tried to say, I'm a fish. no, you're a bird, so come on. So this kind of thing.
Yes.
And yeah, I had to pretend to be a bird, like thirsty, dying without my ocean and this kind of thing. And it was absolutely crazy. And then there was COVID and everything. But actually, I didn't feel so bad during COVID. I mean, in terms of being isolated, I thought, this is your time to understand who you really are.
Yes.
You are not who you are with this person, and you are not who you are just alone because you're not okay with yourself at all. Because at that point, also the other side, like the flip side of my inferiority, was lack of money, which I know perfectly well that it's myself who created this lack, this financial problem that got us pretty far, and all this, phone calls, from those collectors or whatever you call it, and being in debt or constantly in debt, feeling even more inferior. Right. Again, my mind brought things to reconfirm that.
Yes.
And so it was like, this crisis in my relationship, this crisis, financial crisis, it got absolutely crazy. And this is where I started looking for help internally this time. There was no more, therapy because of this lack of money, obviously. And I felt either I sort this out now with myself, or there is no point, in living anymore.
Wow.
And it got really hard. And this is how I started reading reality transurfing. So somehow it popped up on my Instagram. And little by little, I thought, okay, I wanted to manifest, but I didn't want, cars and expensive stuff. I have never been about that. And actually it made me, and still makes me laugh. Internally, I understand that not everybody understands this, but women who want to buy those expensive bags that look ugly, and I don't understand what's the point. Okay, but well, I understand that like a good quality thing is a good quality thing, but still, like obsessing over this kind of stuff was not my way of understanding life. And that's it. So what I wanted to manifest was just, paying off my debts and being free from that, and like leading a calm life. Basically that. I didn't want anything else, because it got really critical. Because there were days that we had nothing to eat, so it was pretty hard. And at the same time, I was feeling like, also pretty aggressive towards myself, because shaming myself for being look at you, so intelligent, and you can't make money. Like, you are nothing, you are like just miserable. You're miserable. And that was it. And so this is how I started reading that and tried to manifest something. But at that point, I already could feel that there was something missing. The fact of reading the book and the way he explains just how the world works, let's put it that way, helped me a lot. And my depression was gone. That was also good. Already it was like a good thing to achieve in my situation.
Yes.
And later on, I thought, well, that's not enough. And somehow he mentions that there are some techniques that you need to be, pretty aware. But he didn't explain really well how this awareness is achieved. Like, I understand I'm aware, but I thought, but this doesn't help me. Then I started searching for this awareness information. This is how I discovered Eckhart Tolle, Mooji. It helped like a little bit more. But again, back to manifesting things like Neville Goddard. Again, they described this state and I couldn't get it fully. I thought that probably I should meditate then to manifest. At the same time thinking, but if I wanted too much, then I reconfirm again the fact of not having it. And again, I create more leg. And there was like this constant conflict inside of my head. And this is how I discovered Joe Dispenza and his meditations, and I started meditating to them. And somehow I felt like I started feeling energy, lots of energy, and it's just distracted me from wanting to manifest anything, you know, like somehow I got calmer, and this is what brought probably just, I changed my vibration. Yeah. I became more grateful. You also speak about being grateful, right? Like as basis yes. for changing your vibration and changing your like general yes. you know, background of your life. Yes. So this is what happens, and somehow things started to come little by little in tiny steps, but I could see a lot of improvement, like tiny things, but in different spheres yes. of my life. And that was great. And this is how I discovered the healing thing, because I could see that there were a lot of people who healed themselves after going to Joe's, you know, events yes. and this kind of thing. Yeah. And I really I didn't want to heal, you know, anything, probably my situation, but it got so interesting with, you know, this experiencing energy, and I started feeling, you know, really interesting stuff. So it was enough for me. At that point, I didn't want anything else. I started enjoying the journey, like not thinking about the result already, yes. but this healing thing just got my attention. I thought I must learn to heal because this is what I want. Probably this is my purpose. And I tried to, well, definitely there was no information about how Dr. Joe does it, but I found a Facebook group where people get together to heal, you know, like just taking turns and healing each other. And that was pretty interesting because I could sense energy in my hands and this kind of thing. Then somehow I discovered yoga massage, and I also started exploring it. Yeah. And it's really interesting. Like I have some clients now, and I can feel how it flows and this kind of thing. But again, it was not enough. Like something was missing. And in my meditations, it was like there is this darkness, there is this spaciousness, but still it's separate from myself. And somehow maybe thanks to that experience, meditating experience, I understood that I needed to discover something else, something more. There was some little but meaningful bit that was hiding from me. And I started just, you know, asking for this veil to be lifted. Please, God, you see how, because during all this time, because when I started reading Transurfing, I just stopped watching YouTube. I mean, in terms of things that had nothing to do with spirituality. Yes. It was only, well, at that point, Transurfing, then Eckhart Tolle, then Mooji, but only this kind of thing. Yes. Right? Because I was a big fan of, you know, real crime videos, for example. So it was absolutely dark thing, you know, like, and it got, every time it got worse and worse. Well, I'm not going to describe things that I had in my head at that point. Really, it was absolutely crazy. And at that time, I said, that's it. Enough is enough. Only this. And it's not that I made myself do that, like forced myself. It was not like that. It was just natural desire to, you know, to shut this world down and just concentrate on that. I felt that I needed that. Yes. And this is how, pardon?
No, it's great. I really like the way you're just so honest and open about everything, because it's just giving a real insight into the way the whole process has unfolded for you, and you're just being so truthful. I really admire that.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary being so truthful, but if it helps at least one person, I would, you know, happy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of people will relate to, you know, lots of aspects, because you're obviously an empath and you're also hypersensitive, and you know, you can read energy. So there are lots of things which have been there for you, and probably they've come forward in different ways. And you know, the meditation and Dr. Joe and those kind of things have enabled you to recognize those abilities. So Yeah, sorry to interrupt you though.
Yeah. Well, so that was it with my meditations, and then something was missing, and well, I kept meditating to Dr. Joe's meditations, and I'm a member of one of numerous groups on Facebook dedicated to Dr. Joe's teachings, and or research maybe is a better way of calling that.
Yes.
And suddenly, but at first I remember reading a lot of messages from people, but little by little I started seeing the same, spiritual community thing, lots of egos and confused minds, which is really useful for me to see also how tricky our mind is.
Yes.
This is just incredible how it, conceals things from us. Yes. It's incredible. It was just, I just admire its capacity, to play us just the way it wants.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so I saw that message accidentally already, just scrolling quickly, and that's it. And someone mentioned Rhonda Byrne's book. And this is interesting because a friend of mine gave me the secret DVD, I think at that time it was that, as a birthday present, and somehow I didn't watch it. I didn't feel, like I needed to watch it. I don't know really why, but I didn't. I still have it, and without watching. Yes. And this is really interesting how things happen. Well, I had an idea because people speak about this, but in general, it didn't happen to me. And then someone mentions the greatest secret, and in a very interesting, way, saying like, Rhonda describes a good way to deal with your emotions. Well, when I read the book, I understood that there was much more to that than just dealing with your emotions, but still, okay, people found this part important, but somehow I understand that was the pointer for me, because I asked for that. And this is what I learned from Joe's work, that you have to set an intention. And if you do, you will get what you want. So I set it like the veil to be lifted, I got obsessed with this veil. You're looking at curtains everywhere, like thinking about, okay, the veil should be lifted. I got really obsessed with that. And so I thought, this is a pointer. So I'm going to read this book. And it was just wonderful because everything resonated. Again, like a lot of people on your channel mentioned that, people you interviewed, that is like, okay, I got this intellectual understanding and it resonated, which is already good, but still, how do I experience this? How do I know this internally? That was the question. And then she mentions you, and I went, like everybody says, I went to Conscious TV to watch your interview. And I thought, okay, probably this man is the answer to my question. So I started watching your interviews. Then there were some other people. Well, you also were interviewed together with them. I just don't remember the names now. Richard Sylvester, I think. Well, I'm sorry if I say their names in the correct way. And but I thought, so many people, and this is how I felt also, like, okay, I resonate with everything that they say, but probably I will go with those who I find most, like, fit into my way of thinking. Maybe it's not the way. I just like our mind, like you say, it's better to have, like one-to-one conversation, because everybody's minds have their own things. Yes. And probably what works for this person won't work well for the other person. And what's more, it will confuse their minds. Yes. Yes. And this is what I actually saw in that group. And so I thought, okay, I will just listen to those who most resonate with me and with my mind's shape, if I can describe it this way. Yes. And this is how I started listening to you, and then to the interviews with all those nice people you have on your channel. And I'm really thankful. If we go back to this human realm, I'm thankful to you and to them for sharing the experiences, because I was really like listening carefully, especially waiting for that moment when they had that aha moment.
Yes, yeah.
Let's see if I can get something, but still my mind wants to find like a clear to-do list. What am I supposed to do to get there? Right. And never it was like that. Every time it's so abstract, like, somehow they describe their life similar to mine, suicidal, then suddenly this happens. But what did you do to get this? So I was absolutely, raging, inside of my mind. How do I do that? And I understood that you shouldn't be a doer, but at the same time, but how do I get there? If I'm not a doer, then if I don't do anything, then I don't get there, this kind of thing. It was absolutely interesting. And like a week where I already decided, like it was like an inspired action. I decided that I was going to send you an email without knowing even if you would reply, and probably you could be busy or whatever. I don't know. I didn't know how the thing worked. And I got like a quick reply, and I thought, so probably there's there's a possibility for me to understand that I'm nothing. Finally, more than nothing. And this is how it actually happened. And prior to that, like a week before that, because already I knew that we were going to speak on such and such day, my mind got crazy. I need it now. I want nothing else. And I heard on YouTube, well, I listened to so many, like Ramana Maharshi, Lester Levinson, John Wheeler, definitely, to you and other people. And I don't really remember who said that. Probably all of you said that you need to want it so much that you can't think about anything else, and then you will get it. But at the same time, you have to let go of this attachment. So how come? What do I do again? My mind got crazy. But it was clear that I wanted it. And during this week prior to that, I told my friends, I know that it's going to happen.
Yes.
I know it's going to happen. And I remember just walking home from work and then going to work with headphones, listening to different interviews. And then there are beautiful audios, like music and a woman, like in a very nice, soft voice, reading bits from Ramana Maharshi's, sort of meditation.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was it. And I was just walking, listening, and like, freedom is your nature. And I'm walking, like along the street, so calm, so distant, and inside of myself, freedom. It was like that. I want this freedom. And I'm not stopping. And so on the 5th of June, it was Sunday, I decided that today it happens. It must happen today. And I spent the whole day listening to different interviews. Then I listened to yours, the one where you mentioned that podcast, and I found it and I decided to listen to the podcast. Oh, and one more interesting thing before it happened, like I told my friend I knew it would happen. And I also had a class. I have like a special room. Sometimes I go to like different places to teach. Yes. And sometimes people come to my place, and I have a small room where I teach. And I had this, like incense burner. Oh, yes. And it's hollow side. Yeah. So my student looked at it and he asked me, "What's that?" And I looked at him and he was holding this, and I could see this hollow, like absolutely hollow space. And I was like, I couldn't speak. I understood the universe is talking to me. It's me. I couldn't say this to him, definitely. But that was like, I thought, it's a sign. I'm getting closer, That was really interesting. And so, yeah, so on the 5th of June, it was, okay, I'm listening to this podcast. So I don't know, I'm not letting you say a word.
No, it's great. It's been really nice, just the way the whole story's unfolded. It's just been so natural. But so it was the John Wheeler podcast that you were listening to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your favorite one.
My favorite one.
Well, maybe it was not, but something tells me that, well, that was it. Same things happened to me. I fell asleep twice and it was almost midnight and I was angry again, like freedom. And then, but how do I understand this? And for the 3rd time, I decided to transcribe the whole conversation. Well, basically John's words, because that could keep my mind concentrated. And again, I thought, okay, at least I will try to do this and probably this helps. And I wrote everything he said and I understood it. And I was wondering what exactly had like made you,
yes, the trigger,
realize your true nature, which bit, because everything seemed like logical, again, like intellectually understandable, but still it was not it. And I thought, okay, I listened to it 3 times. Well, 1 time awake, 2 times sleeping. Okay, that's enough. Let's calm down, because I was about, to smash my head against the wall again because I wanted it so much. And like nothing else, mattered at that point. But I thought, okay, now it's time. Like I wanted it. Now it's, this letting go of this attachment turn. Now let's go, because anyways, we have 2 days left before talking to David, and probably then this happens. I still have some hope. Let's go to bed. And I went to bed absolutely exhausted and I fell asleep immediately. But after a while I woke up, just lying face down and with my eyes closed. And this is when it happened. Well, there were some thoughts at the beginning, but suddenly they were just pushed away. Well, I don't know if pushed away, but I just moved away from them.
Wonderful.
Inside of myself. And it's when everything became clear, all those metaphors about ways and and I think everybody who is seeking this
yes
knows that, is familiar with that. Like, yes, we're all one, we know. Yes, it's a virtual reality game. Yes, we understand it, but it's not on this, I don't know if it's body level, but it's not like on the level of
yes, it's
knowing.
A deep knowing. Yes,
it's deep knowing. Yeah, probably this is it. And so this virtual reality thing, and we're all one, and the ocean thing. Yes, like still, at that point I absolutely understood that. And I also understood that it's not like an intellectual understanding. And I think this is a good thing for seekers to know, because somehow then you don't feel so responsible for attaining it. You just create the conditions by trusting that it will happen, by wanting it to happen. You set the intention. The rest of the thing, if you know that it's not your mind's work, because your mind doesn't know anything about it.
No,
and actually this is what made me relaxed about that.
Fantastic. But I think that you had this really strong determination, and that's, people call it determination, but it's really divine will. There was just this uncompromising position that you took, where you weren't willing to not realize your true nature. And I think that intensity led you to it. I love the way the whole of the process, the way you were just describing it, from your early days right the way through your life to the point of realization. And there was all the intensity, I could feel all the energy as you were describing that. And then as you described realization, then it's just become silent, and I can sense that. That's amazing. It's just such an amazing story, because we spoke a few days ago, but you hadn't actually told me anything about this sequence, so I've really enjoyed hearing how it took place. It's wonderful. It's like a really intense version of seeking. You've had every element in there. You had the experiences as a child. Your parents were obviously very responsible, and they wanted the best for you, and they were using the knowledge they had to create that. But there was the innocence and the inner knowing of your true infinite nature, even as a little girl. And then that came forward, and you were seeking so intensely, and that seeking process took place in the world initially, but then that thread, that sort of magical thread which was there, from when you were looking through the window and looking at the mountain and having this feeling of spaciousness and expansion, and then the conversations with the trees and the whole magical element, it just kept coming forward for you. So there was no compromise, really. And it's a lovely story. It's just amazing. But I think so many people will relate to it, because the intensity and the way you describe it is it's really inspiring for people to see, but also the commitment you had just to see it through. So that's absolutely wonderful. So how's it been since realization, Alice? How?
Oh, well, this integration process. I like your terminology, really.
There's been a bit of a bit of integration going on there. So a few invitations into some old emotional patterns, maybe.
There have been quite a few, and at the beginning it was a little bit more difficult for me to manage.
Yes.
But now I think it's even when they did manage to affect me a little bit, I could feel like at any moment that there is, well, this is how I feel it, there is like a layer of this space between the possibility of between this thing, this invitation or something that might provoke pain, and myself.
Yes.
And that's, I don't know, it's like there's something that doesn't let it get in fully,
Yes.
I can see I became more aware of again mind's ways to try to break through the wall. Yes. And well, that's not the wall, but this layer, I don't know, this air or whatever it is, and get in there. But then I try just to get back to the state of nobody.
Yes.
And it's much more helpful.
Fantastic.
And it's also very funny now, like sometimes, and I don't know, I try not to appear strange to people, but very often, like in the street, when I see, like, I don't know, buses and cars and just people walking and pets, and sometimes I feel like I'm so creative. I have created so many forms, that's really, and they're so funny, and I think I've got sense of humor. But this being God, that I understand, sounds a little bit like horrible. I don't know, to people who haven't had this.
Yes.
Well, for lack of a better term, experience. It's not an experience as we are used to, but I mean this happening, this sudden understanding or realizing. But I heard like a few people on your channel, people you talk to, say this, like, I'm God, and this is exactly what you experience.
Yes.
But it's like it's something so natural and normal, like or maybe in my case it was like that, like there is no God, there is me, and there's nobody else,
Yes, there's only one being. Yes.
And and then it doesn't, from this perspective, it doesn't sound so, oh God, it's not like that at all. It's suddenly I'm free,
Yes.
And
Fantastic.
that's wonderful. And
well, Alice, could you, the thing I really like actually when we had our conversation is there was this real resonance of bliss, which I could feel from you. And so there's obviously the ability to access Anandamaya kosha for you. And I can sense it. There's this background, very blissful experience that's available. And so that was one of the things you mentioned, you know, when you contacted me, because that's something that I talk about. So could you mention a bit about that, just, you know, just as to how that's been, because it's obviously, it's sort of come to the fore, because the thing with bliss is that people feel as though they're not blissful, but actually the bliss is there all along. And what you've conveyed in this conversation is you started discussing, you know, the experiences as a child, but then as the conversations progressed, it's become more and more blissful and quite outrageous as well, which I really like. But it's almost like a lucid dream. That's the way, you know, the way you discuss and describe your experience. It's become very lucid, and the ability to actually experience bliss and for it to be present in one's experience. That's something I'm hoping there'll be more of. So it would be great if you could just mention that a little bit.
I think that I can just mention that because I have no understanding of it. It happens and that's
yes.
it. And it started happening maybe the first time it happened, probably, yeah, I think it was it already, with Eckhart Tolle's meditation, when I suddenly sat still and tried to be aware, and I suddenly felt this outflow similar to that one that I experienced when I was younger with that tree. Yeah. And I could feel like something was opening here, and it was like a huge hole. Actually, in my mind's eye, it appeared like that with petals. And later on, I found an image of, you know, heart chakra, and it looked pretty like that, you know, with like a flow.
You actually saw it.
And
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And I also had a candle, and like the next morning, I decided, like, I lit the candle, and I thought, let it be like a sign to me. I don't know, somehow I wanted a sign from this candle.
Yes.
And it melted exactly in this shape, like a big circle with petals, you know.
Wow.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
The thing I experienced. Yeah, and at that moment I felt again like this outflow of sweetness. It was so sweet, and I could hear cars passing by, and they were inside of me, and I really could feel, well, physical pleasure when listening to those cars, you know, like the sound of the wheels.
Yes.
And I thought about the people sitting inside. No idea who was there, but it's like everything was inside of me, and I was just one with them, and feeling absolutely like every sound added to that pleasant feeling.
Yes.
And then quite a few months later, maybe a year ago, I suddenly started experiencing this. Every time it's like this now. I already meditated to things that Joe Dispenza suggested, and some Indian things as well. And every time it's like just this wave of bliss. This is the word, like just physical pleasure and energy, like something tingling, vibrating, and pretty intense, just coming from my feet upwards, just through all my body, and makes me vibrate. And it can last for an hour or even more. And it comes out of nowhere and then it leaves. But when I'm in this state, I just want again to share love, and I try to somehow naturally, maybe this healing thing had to do with that. I don't know really, but my hands just starts, like, you know, like they become heavy and they just turn towards people, you know, and try, if I can flow love to them without them knowing that.
Yes.
then that's wonderful. And
Amazing.
every time, since we spoke, it has happened quite a few times, you know, much more often than before. So it's there. And every time I think about, I understood that I can move between my human experience without being fully integrated with this person, say Alice, and then I can move back. And then when I think about it, sometimes it's not so easy, like, to get fully back.
Sure.
Well, I understand that I am there, but I mean, like, my mind sometimes tries to dance with me as well. But still, when I get there, I do feel this bliss again.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did really well, because I really like the way you describe bliss, because bliss isn't ever in relation to anything, but I know it's totally genuine from the way you describe it, because it is in waves, and there's that element, even as you were saying, like the sound of the tires on the tarmac, even that frequency, it's like giving rise to this wave of bliss. You can feel it coming through the heart and through the throat chakra, and it's yeah, it's great the way you describe that. I think you articulated it really well, because it is something that you can't really put into words, because there's no content. So you can't say, oh, it's like, you know, having a really nice cup of tea or something, you know, there's no content, but it's like the bliss, which is uncreated, can come forward, and it's accompanying whatever wave is coming through one's experience. So as you say, even the tires on the tarmac activating that. So that's lovely. It's really nice to know that you know, bliss is becoming accessible, and you know, for you to have mentioned that, and for us to have been able to discuss it. That's amazing, Alice. Yeah, it's been so delightful, just the whole sequence in the way you've described things. It's just absolutely amazing.
Well, this is how it was.
Yeah, I think it's really inspiring for people to see, though, because I think culturally, you know, I think Russian people, they're just very genuine and very real, and I think that you know, you're not guarded, you're not portraying yourself in any particular way. It's interesting. There seems to be a thread running through, because I spoke with a lady called Sharon from Australia, and she had a realization which was spontaneous. And then a week ago, I spoke with Paul, who lives in Glasgow. And Paul is also very unguarded. You know, he was just very open about his experience. And you've kind of continued that theme, because, you know, you've just been totally genuine and totally open, and you haven't tried to portray yourself in any particular way. It's been like putting all the cards on the table, and the vulnerabilities and the elements which lots of people wouldn't be able to even admit to. You've just been really open about. But that's actually a real key to realization, because it's the areas that we feel we can't ever disclose, which keep the cornerstone of individuality in place. But once we can just accept whatever it is, you know, whatever the emotions are or whatever the tendencies are, and we don't necessarily need to even disclose them to anyone else. We just need to disclose them to ourselves and to fully accept them, and then that's enough, really.
Absolutely, that's more than enough. That's the only thing that is needed, really.
Yeah, that's magical, though. It's amazing, because realization, you know, to some people it's portrayed as being a sort of non-event, but what I find, you know, in the conversations I'm having, is that once one's true nature is realized, then the potentiality for much more heightened experiences come in, especially as we're declining the invitations into the lower frequency emotions. So it does, it presents itself as the most magical opportunity. And even, you know, I feel really blessed in the way Infinite Being is bringing these amazing people to be able to have a conversation and to be able to just share their story for everyone to see that realization is possible. It's just the most amazing thing. I just feel so privileged to be able to do that.
This sounds so good. I believe you're very happy about that.
Yeah. Well, my feeling for you, Alice, is that, you know, you are a natural teacher, and in some ways, I think the sequence you mentioned, because your parents wanted the best for you, so that made you interpret their desires as to be seeking their approval, and so academically you performed incredibly well. So you speak several different languages, and academically you've really excelled. But I think the whole of the teaching element of your life is something which, you know, is going to come forward in terms of being able to share things in a spiritual sense with people, because, you know, that's really what I feel you came here to do.
Yeah, this is how it feels. Well, we'll see what happens. Now I understand that I'm not a doer, and I try to follow your advice, because still I can see my mind trying, okay, we should do something now about your career, about your future. We should decide whether it's healing or it's teaching or all together.
Yes.
And then I think, and you also like shared this piece of, you gave me this piece of advice, and I absolutely agree with that now it's time to embrace the unknown and let you know your higher purpose just step in. But as far as the languages are concerned, sometimes I think about Eckhart Tolle, because as far as I understand, he also studied, you know, philology. I think he studied English, literature, something like that. And I understand now he uses the language mostly to convey his ideas. And I thought that probably because with Spanish, it was just so random that I suddenly decided, like, let me learn Spanish, for example. And this is how so let's see where it takes me. Yeah, and if I can use these, like this means of communication, and this might be useful for someone, then it's
definitely. And I think in the meantime, you know, as you've recognized, it isn't a matter of engaging the mind to try to create anything. It's really for the process of integration. You know, you may need to be active in some way. You may need to do, you know, continue doing some teaching or something. But the main element is to be really kind to oneself. So every day, because you are the infinite being, and the infinite being is deserving of respect, then it's really important that you actually experience every day in the most delightful possible way, so that, you know, that sense of delight, appreciation, openness, allowing infinite consciousness to come into your experience will all open the door for whatever it is that is going to present itself to you.
Yeah, it's the first time that I don't feel scared about the unknown, because my mind used to do that. Well, everybody's mind does it.
Yes.
Protection.
Yes. Yeah.
The unknown. And now it feels fun, and it feels so liberating, because probably, at least it did happen to me a little bit, but maybe not so strongly as it happens to quite a few people. I just read in the comments, maybe somewhere below some videos, that people are really afraid of, you know, losing their personality and this kind of thing. Like, but human experience is here. It's still available, but on a different level, because now you really feel free to play and have fun.
Absolutely.
In an absolutely unlimited way. Well, but don't get me wrong, I mean, unlimited way, but yeah, from that higher perspective, because I remember with all those spiritual things, you should be vegetarian, and well, I am vegetarian, but it's not a problem for me if someone is not, or if one day I decide not to be so, well, it's like different. But I mean, it's not about that. It's not about what you eat, and it's not about how you dress, or whether you just socialize. I mean, if you just talk to people of this certain group and this kind of thing, because my mind still tries to find, okay, then you shouldn't do this, again, limitations. Yes. Come on, let's stop it now. That's all. No more limitations. Let's just see life just the way it is, for what it is, without, you know, conceptualizing. And this, I like this, non-conceptual. It's perfect. And then you shouldn't follow this. I mean, I finally feel like this search for freedom that was every time, like it got really strong in my life. Now I can experience this, how do I say that? I mean, I felt like, really? So I shouldn't follow any teaching? Really? I'm now like free to follow my own intuition, you know, like this kind of disbelief.
Yes.
And then this in answer comes, you know, like saying like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sovereignty is really important. Yeah, it's great you've recognized that, because it does open the door to allowing infinite intelligence to just come directly through you without having to refer it to anyone else. So yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, thanks so much, Alice. It's been amazing. It's just been really enjoyable and totally delightful listening to you describe things. And I think lots of people will really appreciate and resonate with lots of aspects of your experience too. So thanks so much. That's I would
also like to thank you, because I believe you did help me, you know, before we talked, you know, I mean, with my self-realization, because just by following the pointers that were just put out there, and then giving me this final clarification when we spoke.
Yes.
It was really, really helpful, because sometimes the mind can just start confusing you right away after that. And that was really helpful. And I would also like to thank all the people you talked to, because their stories were really helpful to me, you know.
Yeah, well, it's so nice.
I think I also...
Yeah, it's just so nice for people to see realization from so many different angles, and I feel really honored to have yours within that group of people. That's fantastic.
That's really great. Yeah, and let's see if one day we can just, you know, all get together and have a fun chat, you know.
Yeah, we need to have a party.
Yeah, a party. Yeah, life is a party. Now I can see that.
Yeah,
really.
Wonderful, wonderful. How have things been with your children? Have they noticed any difference in their mum?
I think they did. Well, I did tell them, because they take me for, you know, the crazy one in the family, and so they are ready to hear anything from me. And I told them, they just smiled. Said nothing. But my eldest son, well, with the younger one, we have always been like sort of, I can't say close, but in terms of, you know, sharing and talking and this kind of thing, because my eldest son is more reserved and just, you know, living in his world, and he doesn't need, you know, sharing so much.
Yes.
And I've seen him much more open these days. Just I was really surprised, like talking to me and even smiling, you know, which is not really typical of him. And this is what I did notice.
Fantastic.
But as far as the rest of the things are concerned, I think path and their plan for this life, and well, if it helps them somehow.
Well, it's good just to allow them to have their own experience, really. So yeah, that's good. Well, thanks so much, Alice. That's been delightful. Thank you.
Thank you.